Hello, hello, The bridge has to fall down.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. Oh, now you're gonna hop. 1, 2, higher. 3, 4, 5. Okay.
We'll give people another minute or two, and then we'll get started. Hurry up, you can say hi real quick. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's a couple minutes after 12:15, and we were scheduled to start at 12:15. Thank you to all of you for joining me for Town Hall number 2. I'm Doug Chu, one of the 3 Westmoreland County Commissioners. And today is October 18th. And we're going to talk a little bit about mail-in voting and some of the things to keep in mind if this is something you're going to plan to do for this year. For the first few town halls, I thought I would let everybody know what a Pennsylvania county is. I'm one of the 3 county commissioners in Westmoreland County. So there's always 2 commissioners of one party and 1 commissioner of the opposing party. Basically, the county is an arm of the state and federal governments. There's not much that we can do on our own, but we do run and administer the programs that the state and federal governments put in place. And I have a list there on the slide that you can see in front of you: children and youth services, corrections, elections, services for the elderly, etc. And in Westmoreland County, we actually maintain and oversee 15 recreational sites that include trails and parks and other outdoor recreational spaces. A lot of counties don't have that, even though it's in their purview to operate them. And lastly, we oversee a drug overdose task force, which again is not something that every county does. It's not required, but it is something that we value and we think is important here in Westmoreland County. So going to slide number 3, the first town hall that we did, I talked a little bit about voter registration. I really didn't focus on voter registration in terms of first-time voter registration. What I focused on is making sure that your registration is up to date and that it has the correct address. In the 2020 elections, we saw people that still had rural route deliveries. Mail often won't be delivered to those. We saw people that had the same name as their son or their daughter because they did not put in a middle initial or a junior or a senior. And so I really would encourage everybody to double check your registration, make sure that your address is correct, your name is correct and as full as it can be, that you're voting in the right municipality that you feel you live in, etc. And on the screen, you can see that you could do this online at the link provided for vote.pa.gov, or you could call the Election Bureau at 724-830-3150. At the bottom of every slide for the next couple town halls, you'll see an Election Bureau number so that you can always write that down whenever you want. And then I put these slides and the recorded presentation up online so that people that miss the town hall can actually see these different pieces of information. So today's topic is mail-in and absentee ballots. I'm not going to go through all of the rules on how to get a mail-in ballot or how to process them. What I am going to talk about, though, are some reminders to make sure that if you choose to vote this way, that you're doing it correctly so that your vote definitely counts. One thing that I advise everybody to do, whether they are voting by mail or not, is to check your status on the votespa.gov website. And the reason I say that is because in 2020, we saw some instances where human error led to two people of the same name. One requested a mail-in ballot, one did not, but the person that did not was sent the mail-in ballot, and instead of checking on it, simply threw it out. When they went to vote, they were told that they had voted and requested a mail ballot, and they had to vote provisionally. So there are many people in Westmoreland County, almost 350,000. There are many people that have the same name, especially sons and fathers. So I would really encourage everybody to double check to make sure that there's not an accidental mail ballot requested for you. The example that I just gave from 2020 was actually a father and a son. They are junior and senior, but their voter registration did not state that. They live next door to each other, so it was an easy mistake for a human to make in sending the ballot to the wrong person. So that was my second point today. Humans can make mistakes. It's unintentional, but it does happen. And so I encourage people to do that double check. Some other things that happened last year is a person requested a mail ballot and was hoping that his mother would then receive it at their permanent address and that she would then send it to his college address. I would not advise that option. So the third bullet today is to be sure to request the right ballot from the start. If you are going to request an absentee ballot, it requires a reason as listed in the PA Constitution. Mail-in ballots do not require a reason. If you will not be home and you will be out of state or out of the county, the only way that you can easily and conveniently vote is to use the PA constitutional absentee option. And when you request that absentee ballot, provide a correct mail address. The Postal Service has cut services starting October 1st in order to keep the costs down. And so as a result, mail might not move as fast. And so you cannot rely on a ballot getting to your Westmoreland County address and then being forwarded to an out-of-state address. Ballots are not permitted to be forwarded, and so they have to use the correct address and save yourself the headache. Use an absentee option if that's the option that will best work for you because you are out of Westmoreland County. If you just need to vote by mail, you can use the mail ballot option. It doesn't require a reason, but it has to go to your home address. It cannot go to any other address. And so that's one big difference between absentee and mail balloting. You can apply online to get your mail ballot. It's pretty easy. And so this is the link right here. And I will have all of the links later in my website so that it's easy for you to access those websites without having to click over and over and over, or write down a whole bunch of extra numbers. So I'm right now going to Chrome, and I'm going to open up a window, and then I'll share that window with everybody. So I'll stop sharing for a second, and I'll reshare my Chrome window. So this is Google Chrome, and into Chrome, I've put the mail-in ballot request, and you get a page that looks like this. The Department of State is the state department that handles voting and election information. And this is the page on voting by mail-in or absentee ballot. So there's a lot of links in this page that will help you understand what these two ballots are. That's similar to what I had just gone over. The deadlines come next. Next Tuesday, October 26th at 5 p.m. is the deadline to request an application for a mail-in or absentee ballot. And those ballots must be returned to the Election Bureau by 8 p.m. on November 2nd. Just putting them in the mail on November 2nd is not enough. They must be in the Election Bureau office by 8 p.m. on November 2nd. And so what are some of the ways that you can request a mail-in or absentee ballot? Well, you can apply for a mail ballot by mail. And so if you click here, you can download a form, complete the form, and mail it in. You can go to your county election board, which is in the Greensburg Courthouse. That's 2 North Main Street, Greensburg, PA 15601. And it is Suite 109. That's the Election Bureau. But I find it most convenient if you're on a Zoom call, you're already familiar with the web. I find it pretty convenient to just apply for that mail ballot or absentee ballot online. And so I will click Apply Online. I will then tell it that I'm not a robot, so that a human is pretty sure to be the one operating it. And then simply answer the questions. Remember what I said, mail ballots can only come to your voter registration address. They cannot be sent anywhere else. If you are someplace else, you are best to ask for absentee. So you simply answer the questions and it will open the form as you answer. Are you a military or an overseas voter? Well, that's no. I will be in the United States and I'm not in the military. Are you applying for a ballot because you will be absent from your municipality for the upcoming election? So for those of you in college or those of you that are going to be on vacation, that's the way to request your ballot if you are out of town. You should check yes here. We're not applying for it because we have illness or physical disability, so I will say no here, and I will continue. And you will see that the mailing address for the absentee ballot is an option that you will complete. And the reason for that is you can't be certain that mailing the ballot to your house and then having a relative mail it from your house to the place where you're staying is going to work out. You don't know that the post office will be able to meet those demands. And so you're better off to complete the absentee ballot the appropriate way by completing it and giving the mailing address for where you're going to be. Now, the rest of these forms are pretty easy. You'll put in your driver's license or your pen.id card. You'll follow through the different items. I won't be able to advance beyond this screen because I have to submit a copy of my signature. I have never voted via absentee or mail, and so I would need to submit a copy of my signature as part of this process, which would require me to use my phone and that's too hard to video for this Zoom call. So I'll leave the ballot request here. You would simply fill these out and keep going and answer all of the questions, reviewing it at the end, and then you'll get a mail-in ballot shortly after completing that information. So I'll stop the share and I'll go back to sharing my PowerPoint slides. And we left off here where I showed you how to use the online website to apply. And these links will all be on my website, so it's easy for you to find. In slide number 5, we talk about some rules. There's a few rules that you absolutely need to follow if you want your vote to count. These are part of the law, and in Westmoreland County, we adhere to the voting election code law as strictly as possible. So follow the rules, read the instructions, follow the rules exactly, take your time. You have plenty of time to complete that ballot, and then you can get it back to the courthouse. So one thing, make sure that you're checking both sides of the ballot. Some years, some elections, there will be people to vote on both sides of the ballot. So make sure that you check both sides of the ballot before you turn it in. You don't have to vote for every race, but always make sure that you look and vote for all of the races for which you do want to vote. It is absolutely required by law that you use the secrecy envelope. The secrecy envelope comes with your ballot application. It will just say secret ballot on the cover. There won't be any place for you to sign or otherwise write. And it's very important that you don't put marks on that envelope. That envelope must be clean and clear so that there is nothing on it at all. The only thing that you should do on the ballot is vote the ballot. Don't write any notes, don't write any cutesy comments, don't draw any figures, don't scribble, etc. Don't put marks on the envelope and don't put any extra marks on the ballot. All of those are disqualifying things in Pennsylvania. So I sort of emphasize that there. Don't write notes or marks on anything. And lastly, you must seal that secrecy envelope. So make sure that you do all of those standard items. Whoops. Then put the secrecy envelope inside the pre-addressed return envelope. Fill the return envelope out completely. There will be a place for you to sign. There will be a place to date. There will be other things depending upon if somebody is helping you complete that ballot or not. So please make sure that you fill out everything that's necessary to complete as you are putting that pre-addressed return envelope together with your secrecy envelope and ballot inside. Take your time. There's no reason to rush, and call the Election Bureau with questions. The number is down here on the bottom, and there's no reason that you can't pause for a second, call the Bureau and get an answer. We actually are not having any voice messages left to check on. There haven't been any messages for the past several days. Everybody is getting a call answered immediately and their question handled without any necessary follow-up. Make sure you seal that pre-addressed envelope, confirm that the postage is accurate, and then make sure that it gets to the Election Bureau by 8 p.m. on Election Day, which is Tuesday, November the 2nd. There are no extensions in the election code. So please make sure that you get those returned by Election Day at 8 p.m. If you feel the Postal Service won't get it to the Election Bureau in time, run it up and deliver it or put it in one of the drop boxes that will be available locally. Lastly, it's important to remember that no one can turn in any other person's ballot without a designated agent form. So there is a designated agent form that I can point out if you're interested, but you absolutely must have that form to turn in a ballot for somebody else. Dropbox personnel in Westmoreland County and Election Bureau personnel in Westmoreland County will not accept a ballot without that designated agent form if it is not your ballot. I'm going to go on to slide number 6, just a few deadlines. The last deadline to request a mail or absentee ballot is Tuesday, October 26th at 5 p.m. That's next Tuesday. Voted ballots must be returned by November 2nd at 8 p.m. to the Election Bureau. Emergency issues. So the law does permit some emergency issues to get a special emergency ballot, but that process doesn't start until 5 p.m. on October 26th, and it runs through Election Day. If you need advice on that, the Election Bureau number is at the bottom of this slide on the right-hand side. Lastly, I would highly advise that you check your ballot, you check on your ballot regularly after you have returned it. That's the only way for you to know once it hits back at the Election Bureau. So in order to check on your ballot, you use that link that's at the bottom. So I'm going to stop sharing and reshare my Chrome. You'll get a window that looks like this, and you'll simply type in your name, your last name, your birthday. I'll be 52 next year. My birthday is April 1st, 1970. It's not a fool. That's definitely my birthday. And then the county is Westmoreland. I then click submit, and it says we are unable to match your information with our records. What that tells me is that nobody has requested a mail ballot for me, nor have I requested a mail ballot myself. So there hasn't been an application, so there's no information to provide me about my mail-in ballot status because I haven't requested one. I'll stop sharing and I'll go back to the slides. We'll go to slide 7. So whenever you log in to check your ballot status, there's more information than just yes or no that it was received back in the Bureau. So one of the definitions that I want to stress is date sent. Whenever you log into the Department of State voter registration area, the date sent is not the day that the mail ballot went into the mail. The date sent is the date that the address file was created and downloaded to be sent to the mail house to address your ballot and then put it in the mail to send to you. So the date sent might be September, and you might still not have a ballot today, but that's okay, because no ballots were sent in September. The first ballots were sent on October 8th, which was several days ago. So the date sent that's in the system is the date that your address was taken out of the system. And that's how the system interprets that value. Now, we download the address files every day and we send them to the mail house each and every day. So once the first ballot was able to be sent, the ballot was approved by all the levels of approval. The first address list was generated. It did have about 15 to 16,000 names on it. That address file was sent, and then every day after, in the morning, a new file is sent, but it normally only has a couple hundred, maybe after a weekend, a few hundred names to go to the mail house. They process those and get them into the mail as fast as possible. The mail house prints and assembles the package. That includes instructions. It includes the ballot. It includes the secrecy envelope, the address envelope, etc. And then the mail house drops it at a United States Postal sorting facility so it can go immediately into the sorters and try to get to the Westmoreland County resident that requested it as quickly as possible. Lastly, there is some confusion about interpreting the code. The code actually references the post office, the United States Post Office. And so there is a question, are you able to send a mail ballot back overnight using UPS or FedEx or DHL? If you want to be safe, the safest way to do it would be to use the Postal Service. You could use priority mail, you could use overnight mail with the Postal Service, but using the Postal Service is probably the safest way to ensure no issues with the election code. Now, what if you decided to request a mail ballot, but you want to vote in person? Now what? So on election day, you would go as usual to your usual precinct. You would produce your entire ballot package, the return envelope, the secrecy envelope, and the ballot. You need to bring all of those items to the precinct on election day. The next step is you want to watch the poll worker spoil your ballot. Your ballot could have votes on it. If you voted your ballot but decided to not turn it in for whatever reason, the poll worker will see who you voted for, because in spoiling the ballot, they're going to make sure that all of these items are present: the return envelope, the secrecy envelope, and the ballot itself. So they must check for those three items, even if you have already sealed it up to mail. If you have not completed the ballot and the ballot is blank, then your vote is still whatever it is in your head and nobody else knows about it. So watch the poll worker spoil the ballot. You will need to complete a surrender ballot declaration form. You will need to sign the poll book. Make sure that you sign the poll book. And then you should be granted permission to vote on the machine like any other person or any other in-person voter there that day. If this does not happen as described above, call me or call the Election Bureau on your cell phone right there outside of the precinct. You can't stay in the precinct to call. You must step out of the door and be 10 feet from that door, but call immediately. Some people wait a day or two to call the Election Bureau. Please understand, we can't do anything about the issue at that point. The only way to help ensure that you are voting that day is to make sure that you call the Bureau by the time, by as soon as you know that there could be a problem. So don't wait to call until after November 2nd. Lastly, there are other cases where you might be asked to fill out a provisional ballot. To learn more about provisional ballots, join the town hall next Wednesday, October 27th. If you are told in a precinct to complete a provisional ballot, follow all the rules, complete all of the steps on the envelope, seal it, etc. It is very similar to a mail ballot. You will get a ballot and you will fill it out, voting for whomever you want. Then you will put it in a secrecy envelope. Don't write extra markings on those. The secrecy envelope goes into a larger envelope, and make sure that everybody signs on that envelope as it states. Lastly, you'll be given a little card that will allow you to check on your vote and your provisional ballot online after the election. And I'll go over all of that next Wednesday evening. Lastly, do not sign the poll book. If you are asked to vote provisionally, do not sign the poll book. So as of October 16th, the election dashboard looked really good. There were 0 voicemail messages unanswered. There were no registration forms to handle. There were no mail ballot applications to handle. There were no absentee ballots to applications to handle. So we had no backlog as of Saturday, October 16th. And so on October 16th, this is what the dashboard looked like. We had received 20,156 mail-in or absentee ballot requests. We had sent 19,264 of those names and addresses to the mail house, and we had 9,851 assembled ballots in the post office mailed. 2 ballots have already come back to the county. October 8th was the first day that names and addresses were sent to NPC, which is the mail house. After October 8th, every day we send an Excel list of whatever names, whether it's 1 name or 100, to the mail house. Today, October 18th, if you decide to vote by mail, you could actually go to the Election Bureau. The ballots are in-house. You can request a ballot, filling out the application. They will process your application. They will then give you a ballot. And if you so choose, you can complete the ballot in the hallway and then return it immediately to the Election Bureau. This was all updated on October 16th. So Town Hall number 2, I want to remind everybody, I think there are many, many websites for county government, voting especially, and they are super long. And so it's much easier to remember something like my website, commissionerdoug.com. So if you go to commissionerdoug.com, if you go to commissionerdoug.com, you can find the county dashboard, and there's all kinds of information here. Here is the election data that was on the slide that I had just shown you. There's no differences there. And if you aren't sure of a link, because they are very long, go to useful links and you can see links for checking your voter registration, checking your mail or absentee ballot status. Everything is convenient there for you on my website. So I would encourage you to pass that along and show that to your friends, because it's easier than remembering some of these much larger links. You can contact my office or the courthouse anytime. This slide will be part of the slides that get posted online on my website, but there's all of our contact information for my office, my Chief of Staff, Heather Cordial, and the Administrator, Mary Humberger. Lastly, the next town hall is Wednesday, October 27th, 8 to 9 p.m. It'll be a little different. We will also have Loman Henry of the Lincoln Institute, and we will be talking a little bit about the importance of voting for PA Supreme Court justices. But I'll also cover provisional ballots, what they are, and making sure that you understand how to process those for the upcoming election. After that, the 4th town hall will be somewhere in the middle of November, the 11th, 12th, or 13th. And you can email with any suggestions on dates and times. So this is my last slide, just a little bit about town hall number 3. It'll be me, it'll be our special guest, Loman Henry from the Lincoln Institute of Public Opinion Research. And the topic that he and I will talk about is PA Supreme Court justices. And then after we're finished, I'll talk some about provisional balloting. And so at this point, that concludes the remarks that I had on mail ballots. And so I'm open for any county question and answers, whether it deals with elections, mail balloting, etc. So we have until 1:15 or even a little bit later. I don't have an appointment right after this. And so We have at least a half hour or so for anybody to ask any questions. In the Zoom window, you'll see Q&A. You can type your questions there. There is also chat, but it's easier to put your questions in Q&A because then they become part of the record of this meeting, and other people may have a similar question to you. And so at this point, I'll turn the floor over to those of you that are listening and watching. And if you have any questions, now's the time to go ahead and ask them. We'll give people a couple minutes to type in some questions. I don't think I'll do any more lunchtime town halls because the attendance was low today. We had much more robust attendance a couple weeks ago, whenever it was a Thursday evening, sort of in the early evening hours. The next one will be a little later evening. It will start at 8 p.m. So after I get 6 or 7 town halls in place, I'll have an idea of how many people are attending each one. It doesn't look like anybody has any questions today, so that either means I was so confusing that you don't know what to ask, or my slides were pretty good and you're familiar with voting by mail or absentee. So hopefully today's town hall helped you. I'll post this recording online as soon as we get a chance, and it'll be available for others to see. I just want to thank each of you for joining me today on your lunch hour to hear about county government. I'm going to keep doing these town halls about 1 to 2 every month, and I'm going to keep it up until I retire from this position. So thank you again for coming today. I really appreciate it. And spread the word for town hall number 3 so that we can get some good dialogue and discussion going. Thank you much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week.